Learning English through communication with native speakers learning English is not only a desirable skill, but also a necessity in today's interconnected world. Whether you aim to advance in your career, travel, or connect with people from different cultures, mastering English opens countless doors. Traditionally, people have learned languages through grammar books, vocabulary drills, and classroom instruction. While these methods are important in providing a foundation, true fluency and mastery of a language are achieved through active engagement, specifically through communication with native speakers. This essay explores the many benefits of learning English through direct communication with native speakers, offering insights into how this method fosters everyday vocabulary acquisition, real-world applications, increased confidence, and effective learning strategies. Moreover, it discusses the role of modern technology in facilitating language learning, the emotional and psychological aspects of this process, and provides practical strategies for maximizing success in communication with native speakers. The importance of communication in language learning. Communication is the cornerstone of any language. Whether in formal, professional settings, or casual conversations, the ability to understand and express oneself fluently is vital for mastering a language. Language learners often begin their journey by memorizing vocabulary, learning grammar rules, and practicing pronunciation. These methods provide a foundation for understanding the structure of the language, but they fall short of preparing learners to use the language in real, interactive contexts. This is where communication with native speakers comes in. When learners speak with native speakers, they experience the language as it is truly used in daily life. Unlike formal lessons or textbook examples, real-world communication is dynamic, unpredictable, and diverse. Native speakers frequently use colloquial expressions, idiomatic phrases, slang, and regional dialects that textbooks do not always cover. By conversing with native speakers, learners gain a deeper understanding of these expressions and their contexts. They begin to see that language is more than a set of rules. It is a living, evolving system shaped by culture, history, and human interaction. Conversations with native speakers also expose learners to various speech patterns, tones, and accents. English is spoken differently in various regions, whether in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, or Canada. Learners who engage with native speakers across different regions can familiarize themselves with a range of accents, which helps them become better listeners and more adaptable speakers. For example, American English often uses specific idiomatic phrases in a relaxed tone, while British English might incorporate more formal expressions and unique vocabulary. Learning to understand and adapt to these differences is essential for becoming proficient in English. Mastering everyday vocabulary and idiomatic expressions while formal lessons teach learners the basics of vocabulary and grammar. They often neglect the everyday language that is essential for fluent conversation. English speakers regularly use idioms, slang, contractions, and phrasal verbs, all of which may be unfamiliar to learners who only study from textbooks. For instance, native speakers may say, "I'm good" instead of "I'm fine," or "I'm starving" instead of "I'm very hungry." These colloquial phrases are commonly used in informal settings and are crucial for sounding natural in conversation. Moreover, phrasal verbs, combinations of verbs with prepositions or adverbs, are used frequently in spoken English, but can be difficult for learners to master. For example, pick up can mean to collect something, look after means to take care of, and run into means to meet someone unexpectedly. Learners who communicate with native speakers will hear these phrases in everyday conversations and learn how to use them correctly. Conversations with native speakers also expose learners to cultural references that are an intrinsic part of the language. For example, Expressions like hit the nail on the head or kick the bucket have roots in cultural stories and practices that learners may not be familiar with. By engaging in conversation, learners pick up these idiomatic expressions, allowing them to communicate more effectively and sound like a native speaker. Furthermore, they learn when and how to use these expressions appropriately in various contexts, whether in a casual conversation or a more formal setting. Real-world applications. Contextualizing language learning. One of the main benefits of communication with native speakers is the ability to practice the language in real-world situations. Language learners often feel disconnected from the material they study in classrooms, as it can seem theoretical and abstract. For example, learners may be taught how to ask for directions or order food, but they may lack the opportunity to use these phrases in actual situations. Speaking with native speakers provides learners with practical experience and allows them to apply their knowledge in everyday settings. For instance, if a learner is traveling abroad, they may need to ask for directions, purchase items, or inquire about public transportation. In these scenarios, learners must think on their feet, using the appropriate vocabulary and grammar to communicate effectively. Real-world practice teaches them to adapt their language use depending on the context, and they often learn new expressions or vocabulary specific to the situation. This contextual learning is invaluable, as it prepares learners to handle everyday interactions with confidence. Additionally, in real-world conversations, learners must actively listen to native speakers, which improves their comprehension skills. Unlike textbook examples where sentences are structured in a controlled manner, native speakers often speak quickly and use incomplete sentences or fragmented speech. Engaging with them in conversation helps learners develop the ability to understand different accents, speech speeds, and informal language use. As learners' listening skills improve, they also become better at responding quickly and naturally, which is essential for fluent communication. Overcoming the fear of making mistakes. One of the most significant barriers language learners face is the fear of making mistakes. Many learners hesitate to speak because they are afraid of being judged or misunderstood. However, it is essential to understand that making mistakes is an inevitable and valuable part of the learning process. Every learner, no matter how advanced, makes errors along the way, but these errors provide essential feedback that accelerates the learning process. Native speakers, who are often aware that language learners are still developing their skills, are generally patient and understanding. Most will appreciate the effort learners put into speaking their language and may even offer gentle corrections to help them improve. Learners should embrace these mistakes as opportunities for growth. The more they practice, the more confident they become in their ability to communicate, which reduces the fear of making errors. As learners become more comfortable speaking with native speakers, they begin to take more risks with their language use. They experiment with new vocabulary, attempt more complex sentences, and challenge themselves to speak without fear of making mistakes. This willingness to take risks is crucial for language acquisition, as it helps learners expand their vocabulary, refine their grammar, and increase their fluency. The psychological and emotional benefits of learning English. Learning a language is not just a cognitive task. It also involves emotional and psychological factors. When learners engage with native speakers, they often experience a sense of accomplishment and self-efficacy, which in turn increases their motivation to continue learning. Successfully navigating a conversation in a second language boosts learners' confidence, making them feel more competent and capable. Research in the field of language acquisition has shown that language learners who actively engage in conversations with native speakers experience higher levels of motivation and self-confidence compared to those who rely solely on passive learning methods. Every successful conversation, whether it's a simple greeting or a more complex exchange, reinforces the learner's belief that they can master the language. This positive reinforcement is crucial for maintaining motivation throughout the learning process. Additionally, the social aspect of language learning cannot be underestimated. When learners communicate with native speakers, they form connections with people from different backgrounds and cultures. This sense of belonging and connection fosters a deeper emotional investment in the language, making learners more motivated to continue their studies. These social interactions also help learners gain a greater appreciation for the culture and customs of English-speaking communities, which further enriches their language learning experience. The role of technology in facilitating communication in today's digital age. Technology plays a crucial role in language learning. The advent of the internet has made it possible for language learners to connect with native speakers from all over the world, breaking down geographical barriers. Language exchange apps such as Tandem, HelloTalk, and Speaky provide learners with access to a vast pool of native speakers, allowing them to practice speaking through text, voice, or video chats. These apps often match learners with partners who share similar interests or learning goals, making the experience more engaging and enjoyable. Moreover, video conferencing tools like Zoom, Skype, and Google Meet have transformed the way learners practice speaking with native speakers. These platforms enable face-to-face communication, allowing learners to practice pronunciation, intonation, and conversational flow. By simulating real-life interactions, video calls create an immersive learning environment that closely resembles the experience of conversing with a native speaker in person. Additionally, social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram provide opportunities for learners to interact with native speakers informally. These platforms allow learners to join groups, participate in discussions, and engage in casual conversations, all of which contribute to their language development. Furthermore, online communities provide learners with access to a wealth of resources, such as language learning blogs, podcasts, videos, and articles, which enhance their learning experience. Strategies for maximizing success in communication with native speakers. To make the most of communication with native speakers, learners should adopt certain strategies that will help maximize their success. First, consistency is key. Language learning requires regular practice, and learners should aim to engage with native speakers as often as possible. Whether through language exchange apps, online classes, or informal conversations, frequent practice helps reinforce vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Second, learners should seek feedback from native speakers. This can include asking for corrections on pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary. Constructive feedback from native speakers helps learners refine their language skills and identify areas that need improvement. Learners should view this feedback as a valuable tool for progress, rather than as criticism. Third, learners should embrace mistakes and approach language learning with a growth mindset. Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, and learners should not be afraid to make them. Instead, they should focus on the progress they've made and continue to challenge themselves to improve. Over time, learners will become more confident and fluent in their language use. Lastly, learners should take advantage of technology to practice speaking with native speakers. Using apps, video calls, and social media platforms, learners can engage in conversations anytime and anywhere, allowing for continuous improvement. The convenience and accessibility of technology make it easier than ever to practice speaking and stay motivated throughout the learning process. In conclusion, learning English through communication with native speakers is one of the most effective and rewarding ways to achieve fluency. It provides learners with exposure to authentic language use, helps them master everyday vocabulary and expressions, and allows them to apply their knowledge in real-world situations. Communication with native speakers also builds confidence, reduces the fear of making mistakes, and enhances motivation. Moreover, technology has made it easier than ever to connect with native speakers from around the world, making language practice more accessible and convenient. By adopting strategies for success, embracing mistakes, and engaging in regular practice, learners can maximize their language skills and achieve fluency in English. Ultimately, speaking with native speakers not only helps learners become more proficient in English, but also opens doors to new cultural experiences, social connections, and personal growth.